Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Delta Conveyance Design and Construction Authority Board of Directors meeting. This is Thursday, February 16th of 2023, and this is a hybrid meeting. So there is a virtual meeting link. We do, fortunately, have 3 board members present today in person. So let's call the meeting to order. And could I please have a roll call?
Gladly. Good afternoon, everyone. President Palmer.
Here.
Thank you. Director Millibar.
Here.
Director Martin.
Here.
Director Samara.
Present.
Director Chang.
Here.
Director Anaptawi.
Here.
And Director Luna.
Present.
Excellent. We have a quorum. I would also like to acknowledge that we have alternate directors in attendance. So I did see alternate director Weed in the boardroom, I believe. We also have alternate director Royce Fast. And then we also have alternate director Bob Tincher. I don't know that I'm missing anybody else.
Alternate director Barbara Keegan.
Alternate director Barbara Keegan. Thank you.
Alternate direct, oh, never mind.
Alternate director LaFave. Thank you.
Great. Excellent. Well, welcome all.
And Dennis Lamoureux.
Oh, and alternate director Lamoureux. Thank you.
Okay, anybody else? Nope. All right, then would you please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America,
and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Oh, flip the page here. Good. Now it's time for public comment. This is members of the public may address the authority on matters that are within the authority's jurisdiction, but not on the agenda at this time. Speakers are generally limited to 3 minutes each. However, the chair may further, that's me, may further limit this time when reasonable based on the circumstances. Persons wishing to speak may do so remotely through the electronic meeting link or teleconference number when recognized by the chair. And what we'll do is, continue on with that. Do we have any public comment for items not on the agenda? There is a little bit of an echo, isn't there?
Yeah, President Palmer, we do have a public comment request from Mr. Kevin Johnston. I'm not sure if he's on the line, but I believe he is that 925 number with his hand raised.
Okay, Mr. Johnston, go ahead, please.
Hi, thank you for allowing me to address you. Having a transparent government is a critical part of our society. Your agency is not fulfilling that and not facilitating a transparent government, as evidenced by your agency's lack of compliance with the Public Records Act. As a member of the public, I've made several public records requests to your agency for critical information, which would allow the public to dive into the working operations of your agency. Public records have not been made available, but rather have been provided excuses by your agency staff to not provide the requested publicly accessible information, that information that should be publicly accessible. I request that you fix your agency's non-compliance with the Public Records Act and release the public information which your agency is obligated to make publicly available upon request. Transparent government is one of the cornerstones of our society and shall be facilitated by every public agency. I request that your agency make all information it contains about every matter readily available to every member of the public by publishing all documents on a publicly available website and upon request by a public member. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Johnston. I am aware of some of the issues, and please check with our attorney, and I'm sure that will be clarified. Okay, so let us next get on to our consent calendar. And the consent calendar has one item on it. And okay, do we have, let's see, approve the resolution authorizing the virtual board and committee meetings. Do we have somebody firsting that one?
Madam President, I move approval of consent calendar.
Second.
And Aptawi can second.
Okay, we'll do this by roll call then, roll call vote.
Gladly. President Palmer,
Aye.
Director Millibar,
Aye.
Director Martin,
Aye.
Director Luna,
I'm going to abstain since I was not present at the last meeting. Thank you.
Director Stamera,
Aye.
Director Chang,
Aye.
and Director Anaptawi.
Yes.
All right. Motion, resolution is passed.
Okay, now we are on to another very special item. And Graham, did you want to please introduce this one?
Happily, President Palmer. We are asking for a commendation, thanking Richard Atwater for his service on the board. And we very much appreciate Richard's participation and help. And just wanted to ensure and recognize that formally.
Good. I'm going to read the report on it because I want that to go into the public record. And it says Director Richard Atwater has served on the DCA's Board of Directors since its formation in 2018 as a representative of the Metropolitan Water District of Southern California. The Metropolitan Water District recently notified the DCA that Director Miguel Luna will be serving as the Metropolitan Water District's representative. Staff is excited to welcome Director Luna to the agency, but we will miss Director Atwater's leadership and thoughtful contributions to the agency. This item is an opportunity to recognize and thank Director Atwater for his service on the Board of Directors. Director Atwater has been instrumental to the creation of the DCA, its success to date, and its expected continued development. Staff thanks him for his service and recommends that the Board of Directors adopt the enclosed resolution to formally do so. So again, that recommended action is that we adopt this resolution. And I do believe we need an S on the end of that, Director. So let's just stick that in. Okay, I'm sorry about that. But I would like to extend my personal thanks to you, Richard, because it's been wonderful having you on the board and somebody that I can look to for a good steady outlook. And we are very grateful that you have been part of this board since its inception. Do I have any other comments on that? It looks like Director Tony Estremero. Would you please say what you would like? You'll have to take yourself off mute.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just wanted to thank Richard for his service. It's been a pleasure working with you right from the beginning, Richard. You've done great work here, and I know the community appreciates everything that you've done. Madam Chair, I'd move the resolution.
Okay, do we have a second?
I'll second that.
Second. Oh, go ahead.
Okay, we have a first and a second. Could we please bring that to a roll call vote for approval?
So I have Mr. Millibar down a second, okay?
Okay,
All right. Calling the roll. President Palmer,
yes, enthusiastically.
thank you. Sorry, Director Millibar,
Yes, and thank you, Richard, for all you've done.
Thank you.
Director Martin,
Yes, and thank you, Richard, for your leadership in the early stages of this agency.
Thank you.
Director Luna,
Absolutely.
Director Stamera,
Sorry, definitely.
Director Chang,
Yes, and I just want to personally thank Richard, for his leadership, and hopefully we'll get to see him in the future.
and Director Anaptawi.
Yes, and I echo the rest. Thank you, Richard, and we hope to see you around. Still engaged.
Excellent. Thank you. Resolution is passed.
Great. Well, we will miss you. And, but yes, we plan on seeing you around. You can't get away from us that easily. Okay.
Well, I appreciate that very much, and it has been a good 4 years. We've accomplished a lot with the management team and the board working really well together. And my compliments to Miguel and Russ Lafitte, his alternate director representing Metropolitan. Worked with them for quite a while and really have a high regard. And I think you'll find them to be equally very easy to work with and provide a lot of leadership on our needs and how we can make progress in implementing the project. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you very much. And again, and also welcome, again, a special thing, welcome to Director Luna and Alternate Director Lefebvre. I keep seeing that. I keep trying to put a French pronunciation on it because of my French son-in-law, and forgive me if I do that. Anyway, okay, the next item, where did I put them? There it is. The next item is our new board member introduction. And so would we please do that?
Sure. So we do have, and just to echo the appreciation for Rich, and now we welcome new board member, Director Miguel Luna, as well as alternate director Russ Lefebvre. And so we will introduce Miguel here, but we also have an opportunity for Director Luna to introduce himself as part of item 9A.
So do you guys want to just say hi, introduce yourselves? Director Luna.
Good afternoon, everyone. Pleasure to be here. Let me add my accolades to the work of Director Rich Atwater, whom I followed his career for a long time now, and look forward to continuing his work on this board and certainly in the broader perspective around water. So thank you so much for your service, Rich. Really appreciate it. And, you know, I'm really looking forward to continuing this work along with my alternate, Director Russ Lefebvre, who I've also very much appreciated his work and his talent and what he brings to the table. So excited to join all of you in this continued effort towards resiliency and reliability in the state for water. And certainly looking forward to collaborating with all of you. I see a lot of familiar faces. Director Estremera and I collaborate on a bunch of other things. And so really looking forward to continuing the work here. So happy to, you know, also be joined by Catano and others. So I'll leave it here. I think we'll have other opportunities to
Yeah,
engage.
you're going to get the spotlight later.
No. So I'm going to say that's it. So thank you so much.
Alternate Director Lefebvre, welcome. Welcome. Did you have anything you wish to say?
Thank you very much. I'm certainly looking forward to.
See the top of your head. You got to put your thing down a little. I can't see what you look like. There you are.
How about that? Okay, well, thank you very much. I'm looking forward to participating as much as possible. And I don't think I could possibly add anything more than Rich Atwater and Miguel Luna did. And so I'm just going to listen and try to figure out how to fit into this project that I consider to be one of the most important in the water community. Again, thank you very much.
Great. Thank you very much, Director Lefebvre.
President Palmer, just quickly too, I don't want to also forget to thank alternate director Shane Chapman.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
so we certainly appreciate all that alternate director Chapman has done, and so very much look forward to working with alternate director Lefebvre. But
Yeah, well, it's important to remember our alternates because the alternates also have to keep up, get ready to step in at a moment's notice, and they are extremely important to the whole process.
I should have mentioned that with my name, I answer to everything.
Okay, well, thank you.
We might not want you to do that, but okay.
I know when I first looked at it, but it's FM. No, and it wasn't. I was corrected on that one. Okay, so Director Lefebvre, thank you. Okay, moving on then to Tony. I'm sorry, Tony, you've got your hand up. I didn't notice.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. Just wanted to quickly welcome both Russell and Miguel abroad. We're lucky to have them. The great appointments. So welcome aboard. Look forward to working with you guys.
And here's a big round of applause for our incoming and our outgoing. So yay. Okay, thank you. Now, let's go on then to approval of the minutes. We have two sets of minutes to approve, and hopefully people have looked over them. Do we have any changes or anything that anybody wants to note? Let's take a look at the first set of minutes, which was the December 15th, the regular board meeting minutes. Anything to add or comment on? No? Do I have a move to approve? I so move. Who has second?
President Palmer, are we voting or are we approving the two sets at the same time or individually?
We'll do it individually.
Okay.
Okay, so we have a first and a second. Let's take a roll on this one.
President Palmer,
Aye.
Director Millibar,
Aye.
Director Martin,
Aye.
Director Luna,
I'll abstain from these minutes.
Director Estremera,
Aye.
Director Chang,
Abstain since I wasn't at the meeting.
and Director Anuptawi.
Yes.
Okay, that's moved. On to the next minutes of Friday, January 13th. This was one of our little mini meetings to let us do virtual still. And so do I have a motion to approve?
So moved,
Motion.
Madam Chair.
Okay, a second, please.
Second.
Okay, Tony. Then a roll call, please.
President Palmer,
Yes.
Director Millibar,
Yes.
Director Martin,
Yes.
Director Luna,
Abstain?
Director Estremera,
Aye.
Director Chang,
Abstain, I was not at the meeting.
and Director Anuptawi.
Yes.
All right. Meeting minutes are approved. Thank you.
Right, moving on to items on number 9. Number A, sorry, is the new board member spotlight, Miguel Luna. And this is for information. And Director Luna, would you please give us a little background, a little info about you?
Thank you. I'll try not to stay too much because I thought I was doing my intro prior. I'll say this about myself. I'm immigrant from Colombia. Grew up in my childhood spending a lot of time in a river. And I think in that river, I really developed a kinship with water, a sense of entitlement, and with that entitlement, responsibility. When I migrated here to Los Angeles, where I'm currently residing, I think at about age 13, I found the LA River, and that provided an opportunity to rekindle that kinship that I had with my hometown river. And so I'm 52 this year, and so it's been decade over decade of building and creating a reacquaintance with water and my relationships. I'd have to say that most of my relationships really do come down to water. I was married in the river with my wife. We spend a lot of time in the river. A lot of the people that I hold very near and dear to me come from that relationship of water. And so I'm, a lot of the work that I do today, including serving on the Metropolitan Board, is a way to reciprocate that love and appreciation that I think water has for me. So I'm really looking forward to collaborating, as Director LaFay said, on this very important project. And co-equally as important for me is to build a relationship with all of you so that we can find our common values in what I believe is our mission. Or certainly what I hold very near and dear to me is to provide reliable, clean, potable water to all, and most importantly, to those who sometimes don't have a voice at the table. So really looking forward to working with all of you, and it is just an honor to be here and work on this good work that lies ahead. So thank you very much for the opportunity.
You and I'm also impressed with your work with the diversity, equity, and inclusion work, and also I love the artwork behind you. I love your artwork. It's excellent.
Thank you so much. It's my COVID wall.
It's wonderful. Especially I love the children's drawings. They're just great.
They
They're either
keep
your
me
children's
anchored.
drawings or else you are just in the naive.
They are my children's drawings.
Okay, that's great.
And if they weren't, I would still stick with that.
All right, so let's move on then to
Can I-
item, okay, go ahead. Go
Quick
ahead.
comment. Thank you, President Palmer. Director Luna, I just want to add my words of welcome to our board. Looking forward to working with you. And I will say that from a long time ago politician, I won't hold your youth against you as we work together.
Well,
Thank you, Director Luna.
Thank
I
you.
look
very
forward
much.
to working with you.
Thank you.
And I should say, do we have any other board comments? No? How about, do we have any public comment on this? Anybody who's wanting to chime in? No? All right. Then
But
thank you.
I actually want to just say, if I can,
You may.
thank Director Atwater first and foremost, because I missed the flights, running back and down those flights. It's been a different world, but you did it all, and it's just you are one of the most incredible directors I've dealt with because of the knowledge that you bring to this space. So thank you so much, and I'm looking forward to working with you. I believe in all the other stuff that we have to do in Metropolitan. And Director Lefebvre and Director Luna, I just met you guys. I met Director Luna recently. Love your energy, love what you bring to the table, love your thinking and this quick focus on things. So thank you, Director Lefebvre. You and I have been here together working on the day-to-day, and I appreciate you. I appreciate all my board members. I may be a little biased, but I look forward to working with the new ones, and definitely look forward to continue to work with Director Atwater. But I think you guys are gonna really enjoy this team, so thank you.
Right, it's going to be a good team. Okay, anybody else? Nope. Okay, then let us move on to 9B, which is the February DCA monthly report.
President Palmer, Claudia has it up. Claudia, could we please go to section 1?
Sure thing. Give me one moment to put it into full screen mode here.
So a few items I would like to highlight, beginning with the program management section. We are continuing, as you would expect, developing, processing, modifying our task orders for the current fiscal year 22-23, while at the same time closing out fiscal year 21-22. You will recall that we extended a few key task orders into the current fiscal year, so it delayed the closeout of FY 21-22. We have completed and processed all the invoicing associated with last fiscal year and are now closing out. So we are planning to submit the final closeout report to the Department of Water Resources on March 1st, and that will truly mark the completion of the fiscal year. But the finances are pretty locked down, and I'll review those here in just a minute when I get to the summary table for last fiscal year. We are also at the same time, we're starting to kick up our planning activities for next fiscal year, which will be fiscal year 23-24. We're beginning our budget planning process, also developing our procurement plan for next fiscal year. And so all of that will be shared with you as we develop it. The board will recall that we do tend to stack up board meetings towards the end of the fiscal year so that we can review draft versions of the budget and then finalize the budget in June. So we're meeting this month in February. We won't have a board meeting next month, but then April, May, June will be a consecutive 3 months of board meetings to process those end of year activities. So moving into the administration, continued support for onboarding of staff and even board members, and supporting remote meetings and all that is required for the hybrid workplace. We do have an active procurement right now for risk management software And that is something that we're working on and expect to continue to work on. It's a very detailed procurement, similar to what we have for very specialized IT software. On the engineering front, the priority for the engineering team at the DCA continues to be supporting DWR through the permitting processes, responding to any requests, clarifications on the conceptual designs, any of the information that has been provided and evaluated through the impact analyses of the draft EIR. Also supporting DWR now that the public comment period is closed with the review and response to anything that's related to the work that the DCA provided relative to the project description, concept engineering quantities, that sort of thing. Also a big focus for the engineering team continues to be the support for ongoing fieldwork activities. So we've got the engineering side that's looking at conditions Delta-wide, continues to collect all of that historical information, identifying gaps in the overall understanding of conditions, and then working with the investigation team to make sure that the data points that are being collected are collecting the right data, helping to fill those data gaps. The fieldwork team has a couple of key focuses right now. They're wrapping up their documentation for last year's work. We had a spring, summer, and fall three separate investigation programs from last year that we're wrapping up last calendar year that have been wrapped up and are now they're putting the finishing touches on that documentation. And then at the same time, planning for the upcoming programs, we intend to perform spring of this year, spring 23, summer, fall programs. But in the current fiscal year and what's right in front of us is the spring 23 program. So there's a lot going on now, ramping up with the environmental teams and planning activities, coordination, gearing up to conduct those programs coming up probably in April. And then lastly, we are onboarding some new support from Valley Water. This board remembers Damaris Villalobos. She was fantastic, but as time has gone on, we've had some personnel changes. We are onboarding some new support staff from Valley Water, Victoria Garcia, and I look forward to getting her ramped up and on board, and we'll have a future opportunity to introduce Victoria to the board here in the future once she's got her legs underneath her. Okay, Claudia, let's go next to, please move ahead to section 3. So this is our budget summary for the current fiscal year. So now we're talking FY 22-23. I will sort of in reverse order, the next table that I'll talk about is last fiscal year, but let's talk first about the current fiscal year. We have our approved budget of 31.16 million. We have committed through contracts and task orders just under 29 million. So we still hold a little over 2 million in reserve. We are now really tightening our projections and starting to look at the work to accomplish in the latter half of this fiscal year and really starting to sharpen our pencil on where we have underruns. Those are shown in the variance column with negative variances. Those are identified underruns. And then positive variances they don't have a plus in front of them, but you can tell. Really the field work is the place where we're starting to move additional funds to. When we budgeted the fieldwork program this time last year, we didn't have the specificity that we do now in order to completely cost out that. We had several placeholders and assumptions in that program. Now that things are really taking shape, we have a much better idea of the complexity and costs associated with the spring program. We do see that we need to move some funds around and continue to prioritize that work. But all of this is going to be accomplished within the approved $31 million budget. And I actually expect that we still will have underruns by the time we get to the end of the year. But we're really paying very close attention to that, making sure we're repositioning funds where we need them to get the work done. Any questions on the budget for this year before I move on to last year's summary? Okay, well, I guess before we jump to last year's summary, Claudia, can you go to the section 3 budget chart that shows the same information, but just in a visual rather than tabular format?
Yeah, Graham, I think Katana had a question.
Oh, yes, I could talk.
Sorry, Graham, I probably should have talked to you offline, but so we are finishing the last fiscal year, but I am making the assumption that the conversation you and I have had, we've gone back and make sure the books are correctly documenting prior year budgets and then whatever we carry forward, correct?
Yeah, that is correct.
Okay, thank you.
Sure. Claudia, if we could go to the chart, please, at the tail end of section 3. So this plot shows the cash flow so far for the current fiscal year. You can see the underruns that were generated. The blue bars, the blue histogram bars are the planned monthly expenses that we laid out at the beginning of the year. The gold bars are the actuals, but comparing to that planned. The lines cutting across, those reference the axis on the right side, and those are the cumulative lines. But they're again looking at the planned cumulative versus actual cumulative. You can see during the fall, August, September, October, we created a bit of a what I would call a positive variance. That's where some of our underruns are coming from for the current year. But as we started really picking up November, December, we started coming in very closely, where actuals matched planned very closely. And I expect that trend to continue. You can see that we did plan for a bit of an uptick in the second half of the year. And I do think that will actually come to be, but it may be a little delayed. So I wouldn't be surprised if we continue to accumulate a little bit of underrun as we move into January, February timeframe. But we'll see, and that's something that we'll be updating the board on a monthly basis.
For the pink line, we got to look at the stuff on the on the right. Yeah.
That is right.
Okay.
The histogram bars are for the monthly expenditures on the left-hand axis, and then the cumulative lines reference the axis on the right-hand side. Sure. Okay, Claudia, let's now go to the summary table 3A or FY 21-22. So we have included in the monthly report now for several months a recap of FY 21-22 financials, since we extended those task orders and are still processing through and finalizing the finances. We wanted to include all that information just to ensure transparency. So we had an original budget of 21.5 million. With some of the rollovers and transfers that I know this board is very familiar with from last year in terms of rolling over previous underruns and then funding the current fiscal year. We have ended up with a current budget for last fiscal year of 21.364 million. So that's in the second column of the table there. We now have locked in our actuals. Those are identified in terms of current commitments incurred to date and estimate at complete. You can see all three of those now match. So those are locked in. So we have, a very clear understanding of where we ended up last fiscal year at 18.05 million. So we have an underrun of a total of 3.3 million below the currently established budget for last year of 21.3. Just to note, we also rolled over at the tail end of last year, 3.11 million to fund the current year. So the total cumulative underrun for the past couple of years would actually be about 6.4 million. So we've had some really good financial performance while maintaining all of our key objectives. Lastly, Claudia, if we could go to the very end, section 5 program schedule, please. So here we're very much on track in terms of program support activities. In general, engineering is moving as planned. I will highlight that what we termed project definition reports, we're going to start indicating some slowdowns on that. We're just not there yet as a program, and I think some of this still needs to be fleshed out. Right now, we're just working on what we think the content of a document like that might include, and then we're going to hold back and intentionally sequence this with the permitting activities. We've got the field work that's ongoing, very much on track. This is tracking the 3 programs of summer, fall, and then the upcoming spring program. So the field work is very much on track as scheduled. So that completes my summary of the monthly report, but would welcome any questions.
Board.
President Palmer, if I may make a comment.
Yes.
So, Graham, I appreciate, the clarity that you provide the finances as well as the schedule on. I would, just offer that I think in, other settings this week, you've kind of discussed at length, with regards to the savings against actuals. And I think, I asked some, pretty detailed questions. And I think, you've, done a really good job of explaining and as well as the DWR's Program Management Office. I think my concern was, I think while it's good to be under budget, the question is, what are you giving up in the meantime? And, I think, all answers that you provided gave me some comfort that, the savings were achieved without, not at the expense of any, measurable or significant parameters that would, move the program along. So I just want to say good job. And, I know it's not easy to, keep things on schedule and on budget, but I think you've been able to, undershoot the finances, which is a good thing. So thank you.
Director Change. Yep, thank you.
Okay, any other comments? Board comments? Anybody on the Zoom? No? Okay. Do we have any public comment on this?
We do not have any public comment requests, President Palmer.
Okay, great. Well, thank you. No, this is something that is truly wonderful to see that you've made it so clear in terms of what we're doing. Okay, getting back to the agenda. Moving on to item number 10, which is staff reports and announcements. We have a couple of things coming up here. General Counsel's report.
Thanks, President Palmer. Before I get started with the report, I just wanted to kind of echo some of the sentiment from earlier in the meeting and thank directors Atwater and Chapman for their leadership and support over the years, and very excited for the opportunity to work with directors Luna and Lefebvre going forward. So the item I wanted to highlight from the written report is the future of remote meetings. So this board will remember that we've been planning for the end of the AB 361 flexible remote meetings for a number of months now, and that time is here, absent further clarification from the governor's office or applicable health and state and local health officials. And if the statewide declaration of emergency is rescinded effective the end of this month, we won't be able to use this very flexible format going forward. So as the board will remember, we have been exploring whether we could have satellite public locations with the member agencies that would allow directors who are not able to come up to Sacramento to attend a meeting to call in remotely from a satellite location, which would be publicly accessible. We've been working, and a lot of credit goes to Claudia and Jennifer for their efforts on this to begin implementing that because April will be here sooner than we think. So the current plan and would be looking for some board feedback on this would be to sort of set up an opt-in procedure where each member agency would have the opportunity, if they were interested, to host a satellite public location at their board chambers or wherever made sense for them. We would want to make sure we had the appropriate staffing and audio visual capabilities. So Claudia is developing a list of sort of requirements that we would need just to make sure there was compatibility with the system. And those will be sent out to all the member agencies. And as stated, those member agencies that are interested in participating, we would go ahead and add them as a remote meeting location for each meeting they wish to. And that location would be posted on the agenda, and any member of the public who wished to attend along with the remote director would have the opportunity to do so. That's actually all I have, but happy to answer any questions on that or anything in the report. Thank you.
Could you clarify again for all of us, because I think you have clarified it before, but in terms of how flexible this is, in terms of the idea that how many people have to be in one location?
Yeah, so the other way that we could do remote meetings, which you are likely talking about at your member agency boards, is the private remote meetings under AB 2449. You'll remember those require a just cause or emergency standard. In addition to meeting that standard, there's an additional complication for us, given how spread out our board members are, in that if a single director is calling in under AB 2449, a quorum of the board, so 4 folks, would have to be here physically in the room. So from staff's perspective, we're not sure that AB 2449, unless we get regular in-person attendance by more than a quorum, will be a realistic option for us. And I think that's one of the reasons why we have alternate directors. If someone's sick, they'll have the opportunity to step in. But we do recognize that, folks, especially the pandemic, have gotten used to not having to travel up, and there's other, benefits with that. So hosting public satellite locations from our perspective is sort of the best of both worlds moving forward.
That will not require us to have a quorum in any one physical location.
That's correct. We could have a director at each meeting location.
Okay, that was one of the things that several people have asked me about, and so I'm glad that you're clarifying that for us.
Yeah, just in case people are interested, because we kind of geek out about this stuff sometimes. So because we're a statewide JPA, we actually can have meeting locations anywhere within the state of California.
Oh, excellent. Okay, great. Thank you so much for that. Okay, any other comments on that?
It looks like Director Anaptawi has a question.
Okay, Director Anaptawi, go ahead.
Thank you. Thank you, President Palmer. Yeah, Josh, just a quick question here for alternate directors that are attending but not participating as a voting board member in that particular meeting. Do they have to post their location, or can they just attend as if without any notification remotely?
That's a really good point, Director Antabi. I should have addressed that. So if alternate directors are not going to be sitting in and voting, and they're just attending it, participating as attendees, they can actually call in from any location, because their location they're not technically a sitting director in those instances.
Thanks for the clarification.
Right,
Thank you for the
but then they couldn't like change their mind and say, oh, I'm here because my,
Yeah, that's right.
Other
There
person.
wouldn't be an opportunity
Yeah.
to swap in unless they went to a public location.
right, okay, good, gotcha. Thank you very much. Okay, anybody else? Okay, any public comment? No,
public
Okay.
comment requests.
no public comment request. Okay, great, thank you. Let's get on to treasurer's report then.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for this opportunity. And I did forget to mention Shane, and Shane, he works as hard as I do every day. So the fact that he was an alternate on this board was incredibly generous of him, and all the time he spends up in DCA. So thank you, Shane. I did omit to thank you. So thank you. So this report is a little dated as usual because we're reporting 2 months out. And so the last time we closed our books in December 1, 2022, we really did experience a lot lower balances at 194,615. I don't know if Bernadette is around, but I think that's the lowest we've had in this bucket. So one of the things that Graham, thanks to Graham and everybody going to the DCA and negotiating to get us more money, we now are sitting with $800,000 that we have to pay advance payments, because sometimes we do have to wait for them to send us money to pay our bills. And it does almost deplete our balances. So now we do have back, we used to have 800K, we give up some of that money, but we just recently received another 300,000. So we do now have about 800,000 in the pot. And so ending balance as of January, after we've paid some bills and received some of the money, we ended up at 951,675 as of January 31st, 2023. And we've included in this report, as we always do, all our financial, our schedules. So if you have any questions, please let me know. But at this point, we're just really paying bills. We receive money, we pay bills, and most of the money is held and controlled by the TCO. But as we receive checks, as right now, as of this January 31, 2023, we had about 20 invoices totaling over $4 million. And I'm pretty sure at this point, if I had to ask Bernadette where we are, that changes on a weekly basis. But the core issue for us is always to be able to prepay some of those bills and have enough money in our fund to be able to pay the bills as we anticipate. We do not pay the major bills until we receive money from them, because we really do not have, and we don't hold the money. So that's our report today. I'm happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
Connell,
Yes.
I just wanted to add that we also have submitted the financial transaction report for the DCA to the State Controller's Office.
Oh, thank you for that update, Bernadette. Thank you. So we're happy to answer any questions you might have. Well, then that's the report we have.
President
Right, how
Palmer,
about, yes, go ahead.
if I may, thanks, Catano, for the report. So yeah, seeing this 951,000, I just want to confirm that it sounds like your assessment is that this is just kind of sitting in a parking lot while waiting to pay bills, outstanding bills. Is that correct?
Correct. We typically will receive invoices. And when we receive them, we alert them that we're sitting on invoices, and they will look, they approve the invoices too, but sometimes the money in the invoices don't match. But once we receive the money, we'll then clear the invoices. And we should, now that we're sitting on 800,000, we should be always around that number, because there are few bills that we've told them that we can't wait for them, the leases, the rents, just small things that we need to be able to pay ahead of time. So that money takes care of that, and then we get replenished.
So do you envision us getting to a point in the program where we'll have to look at, like long-term investments, some point down in the future? I mean, that day is probably, some distance away, but
Yeah, so no, because we don't really keep the money. But if we do ever issue bonds, that's a whole different ballgame, because we will then be sitting on money, and then we'll start investing. When the DCFA ever start, if we get to a point where the project is not just paying this O&M bonds, we now have bonds and we have money that we've received, yes. At that point in time, you'll see us showing your portfolio investments as we clear the projects. But right now, it's just really receiving and paying O&M costs. So it will not be beneficial for us. We do have money in the money market, but we don't have investment, because really that's the deal. We get the bills, we pay, and we are left with a small amount.
That's probably a couple years down the road is what you're talking about.
Correct. Yeah. If we ever have bonds, yes, that would be a whole different conversation.
Any other comments from board members? Looking at the Zoomers, any Zoomies? Zoomers. Zoomer boomers, yes. Okay.
And no
Anybody
public
else?
comment request either.
Okay, no public comment. Thank you very much. And thank you for that report, Katana. Much appreciated.
you.
And also, I've got to tell you, I do appreciate your references to the alternate director, Chapman too. That's very, very kind of you. Okay, let's move on then to the environmental manager's report.
Okay, can you hear? Yes, thank you,
Yes,
President Palmer.
Welcome.
Thank you. I'd like to also start off by thanking directors Atwater and Chapman. Really, it's been great working with you, and I'm looking forward to working with new directors Luna and Lefebvre. So I wanted to just highlight a few things. We did have our draft environmental impact report out for public review in 2022, and the comment period closed in December. And since then, we've been organizing comments and preparing to respond. We received about 700 unique comment letters. Some of them had multiple form letters, but we're talking about unique comment letters. And that added up to about 6,000 individual comments contained within those letters. So it's a fair amount of work to organize and then respond to all of those comments. And those responses will be included in the final EIR expected later this year. Additionally, the Corps of Engineers has released a draft environmental impact statement on the federal side under the National Environmental Policy Act. And that document is available for public review until March 16th. And I included the link for more information to the Corps process on their website, and that's within my report. Additionally, I had some questions about the differences between the EIR and the EIS. And so I have a link in the report to our explanation about those differences, but I just wanted to highlight a few things here. So there are a lot of similarities between the California process under CEQA and the federal process under NEPA. And the biggest is that they have the same fundamental purpose: to evaluate the potential environmental effects of a proposed project and project alternatives, including a no project, or as NEPA calls it, a no action alternative. And for these specific environmental documents, they do have the same proposed project. So they are exactly the same under both efforts. So for a few differences, one of the key differences is the role of the lead agency. So DWR is the lead agency because we are a project proponent. We're considering whether we want to implement a project. But the Corps is not a project proponent. They're a regulatory agency, and they have responsibility to determine if they should be issuing permits under their jurisdiction. So the decision that's made under these documents is fundamentally different. DWR will be deciding ultimately whether to certify the EIR pursuant to CEQA and then approve and implement the proposed project. The Corps will not be involved in deciding whether the project will move forward and implement the project. They will just decide whether or not they should be issuing permits under their jurisdiction. Additionally, their environmental document, the EIS, does not include elements of the project that are outside of their jurisdiction. So generally, it focuses on construction-related effects and does not focus on operations effects. And those are fully incorporated within the environmental impact report that DWR proposed or developed. The draft EIR and EIS occasionally cover different topics because they are following different regulatory processes. So there are some minor things, like some resource areas in the EIR are combined in the draft EIS, like geology, soils, and paleontological resources. And then there are some things that do not have a chapter in the draft EIR, but do in the draft EIS, like navigation. Additionally, the draft EIR evaluates 9 project alternatives, but the Corps in their environmental impact statement has evaluated only 5. So while I've talked a lot about some of the differences, but just a big overarching thought as we finish this, that a lot of the processes are very similar. So when we started off both processes, there was a notice issued to initiate the process. Both agencies conducted scoping to collect information to help scope the analysis that was complete. Both entities identified alternatives to the proposed project or proposed action, and then have released a draft document for public review. After public review, the processes will be fairly similar to respond to comments, address those comments if appropriate, and then release final documents. So the process side is pretty similar, and we will be moving forward on both fronts towards a final document later this year.
That final document to be available?
So for the DWR process, we are looking at the end of 2023. I'm not sure of the Corps' latest schedule, so I think around the same time or early 2024.
Okay, any comments from the board members, either in person or on Zoom? None? Okay, do we have any public comment? None? Okay, there we go. Right, well, thank you very much, because I really like to hear how those differences are in terminologies and what's covered, and that's quite helpful. Okay, so that brings us basically to the verbal reports section. Do we have any verbal reports from the board? No? Okay, I just wanted to just bring up something that with the governor's permitting, supposed streamlining of permitting. I understand that anybody that's kind of like already applied for permits or started a project, that they don't get that streamlined permitting. Is that correct?
I don't know that there is necessarily a process that those already in progress don't have streamlined permit. I think a lot of the work to develop what will happen is still underway. So I don't know that there is a really straightforward answer either way at this point.
So it hasn't really been figured out yet in terms of what that streamlining actually means. And then we had Monday, had the executive order, and then, okay, well, just how that works in is going to be interesting to see how it affects us. All right. Anything else? Anything else? No? All right, then, ladies and gentlemen, do we have any other public comments?
President Palmer, we have not received any other public comment requests.
Okay, then I do believe that I got the hammer and we are adjourned.
Excellent. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.